Welcome, everybody. We're back to, we only have a few more lectures to get through. We have retirement planning, estate planning, and the last one is on money behaviors. So I know that many of you probably are not focused on this idea of retirement, but I'm hoping that the idea of not wanting to work forever is crossed your mind. That's probably one reason why you're going for a college degree so that you can earn um, typically a higher income over the duration of your working years. And that then leads you to be able to put money aside so that you can eventually stop working for at least a wage. Doesn't mean you need to stop with a purpose, but it allows you then to do things that that working years wouldn't necessarily allow you to do. So we're going to just talk through some various aspects of retirement planning. Again, I don't expect you to walk away from this lecture being an expert by any means. There is entire courses, there are entire professional designations when it comes to retirement planning. So this is a very challenging topic, but we just want to basically hit the high level. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so just a few statistics when it comes to retirement. So as you can see down here, there are some workers having saved for retirement. There's about 61% of people who are actually saving for retirement. Look at this statistic. 47% of workers have less than $25,000 in total savings. 47%. The percentage of workers with less than $1,000 is 24%. And then the percent of workers who have completed a retirement plan analysis, 41%. That means that 59% of people haven't even really evaluated what does retirement look like? What do I need to do to be able to get to this ultimate goal of retirement? So a couple of retirement questions that we want to be thinking about. And this is kind of something that generally everyone needs to be focused on. When do I want to retire? Okay, so this is the idea of when. How much money do I need to be able to stop working? Okay, and potentially never have to, work again. And there may be two different goals. There may be one is I want to be able to live comfortably, but if I need to go back to work, I probably could. Or there's I want to never have to enjoy work in a job again. And then there's kind of a third bucket that might even be I want to retire, but then I also want that money to sustain me, my spouse, and then I want to be able to leave money to my kids or my grandkids. Okay, so there's a lot of different concepts we need to be thinking about. So we're going to take a quick flashback in these next few slides and look at just a couple of different ways that we would use time value of money to calculate a retirement need. Okay, so these are very basic. Okay, so we have Tim here. Tim needs $100,000 in retirement and plans to retire in 10 years. He wants to assume a 10% withdrawal rate and no principal reduction. So how much does Tim need? Okay, well, to do this, all we need to do is take our $100,000 and we're going to divide it by our 10%. If you recall from our time value of money, the present value of an annuity is going to be the cash flow divided by the interest rate. And when we do this, we come up with $1 million. So $1 million, if it's earning 10%, right? So let's just multiply this by 10%, will give us, $100,000. Okay. You can take that $100,000 and $1 million is still there. Now, the question is this a reasonable expectation for the next, say, 35 years? Okay. So those just some considerations. All right. So now what we didn't consider is, well, let's say he wants to take in an after inflation. He wants to make sure that he maintains his purchasing power of that $100,000. So in this scenario, we could take $100,000 and say, well, what if the first year we wanted to figure out, well, what are we going to need? So we would take $100,000, figure out what that $100,000 is in 10 years, and it's actually going to be $134,391. So in 10 years, that 100,000 is actually going to be 134,000. So now we need $1.343 million to be able to provide him 134,000 in 10 years which is equivalent to $100,000 today. So if we were to draw this out, so here's today, this $100,000 today, and 10 years, so N equals 10 years, that is going to be 134,391. Okay. Now we need to be able to make this payment for the next, say, 35 years. Okay. And that's where we would take 134,391 over our 10%. And that's going to give us the 1.343910. Okay. And that's how we would determine that. Now, we also know that this amount right here that we just figured out is also not adjusted for inflation for these next 35 years. Okay. So we need to make sure that we're considering the purchasing power for these, for our retirement. So let's take a look at Sam. Sam's retirement needs. So Sam needs $80,000 a year in retirement, plans to retire in 10 years. Inflation is expected to be 2.5% per year. And assuming a 10% withdrawal rate and no principal reduction, how much does Sam need? Okay. So we can actually do this by taking our, if we wanted to figure out what he actually is going to need, let's do our time value of money. So I have on the slide to find out the one-time amount and that future value here. So what would that that present value of $800,000 look like in 10 years? $1 million. The other thing that we can do is let's just go back, right? So we're asking, we know that Sam has a payment equal to $80,000. We know that we have an N of 10 years. We know that our interest rate is going to be actually adjusted. So we're going to adjust it by taking 1.1 and dividing it by 1.025, multiplying it by 1, or subtracting by 1 and multiplying by 100. And when we do that, 1.1 divided by 1.025 equals 1.073 minus 1. And we're going to multiply that by 100. And we are going to get a 7.317%. Okay, so this is the inflation adjusted interest rate. So this is inflation adjusted rate. Okay. All right. And let's see. So the first one we want to do is we want to inflate $80,000. So we're right here. We're right here on the timeline. We know that this is 10 years. This is 80,000. And we want to know what that's going to be. So 80,000 is my present value. I'm going to increase that by 2.5%, 10 years. And I'm going to compute my future value. So 80,000 is my present value. And I've got 10 years, 2.5% interest rate, compute future value. I'm not sure that's right. Let me clear everything out. So $80,000 is my present value. 10, 2.5, compute future value. So it's going to be 102,406. Okay. Now, from here, we want to make sure that we can take this and earn this. And we're going to earn this as our new payment amount. So now we have a payment of 102,406. We have our interest rate, right? So money is in the account of 7.317. And we want this, let's just say, for 25 years. How much do we need? So we're going to turn this into our payment. And then we're going to do 7.317 is my interest rate for 25 years. And I want to compute my present value. And when I do that, I'm going to come up with 1,177,609. Okay, so this is my present value. This is how much I need given these parameters. And this is going to provide me an inflation adjusted value. Okay, so I'm going to be able to, my account is going to grow by 10%, but I'm going to know that I'm going to be paying 2.5% in inflation every year. Okay, so this is how much I would need to be able to provide me this level of cash, which would be an inflation adjusted rate. All right. All right, so let's take a look at Max. Max needs $110,000 a year, guaranteed income of $40,000 from Social Security and pensions, plans to retire in 10 years, and we have a 4% adjusted rate, and we want to assume a no principal reduction. If you notice on all these, we aren't reducing the principal. We want that principal amount, that corpus, to remain the same. Okay, and then when we do this calculation using our time value of money problems, we actually will get $1,036,171. Okay, and we're using our time value of money calculations. All right, so you can see that time value of money is a simple tool that can help people really begin to see, well, how much money do you need in retirement to be able to make these payments? Okay, and here's another example. So we have, let's say your 35-year retirement period, 7.5% return, and we're going to use the money over a 35-year period. How much do you really need? Here's our parameters, and I'm sorry for the slight discoloration in this slide. When we do this, we would need 1.2, just a little over or a little under $1.3 million. Okay. In other words, I can know what I need if I can generate a 7.5% return, and I'm going to live a 35-year retirement. Okay, how much can I put aside? Now, what's nice is you can look and say, here's you. Let's say you are 20 years old, and you're going to do this for 45 years. At 65 years. Okay, you want to retire at 60. So we have a 45-year time horizon. Okay, how much would you need to be able to get that? I'm going to let you solve this one. But let's say we have an N is 45, an interest rate. So we have a 7.5% return. Let's assume a 2% inflation. And we're going to find our inflation adjusted return, which would be 1.075 over 1.02 minus 1 times 100 will give us our return. Let's just do a quick calculation. 0.075 divided by 1.02 equals. This is going to be 5.39%. Okay, so that's our inflation adjusted return. We're going to inflate. All right, we're trying to figure out what we need here for 35 years, but we're going to start here. Let's back this up. Actually, it'd be too complicated to work all this out on this problem. So anyways, needless to say, you can see how these problems work. Okay. All right. So let's just go through quickly this idea of Social Security. So Social Security is a federal program that was originally called the Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance Program. So it operates by taking income from taxes and individuals, and then they're using that then to pay its current retirees. So we have Social Security Administration. They receive money from current employees and employers, and then it pays out benefits to retirees. Okay, so that's kind of how that process works. And you can always go and get more information at the Social Security Administration website. Okay, all right. So Social Security taxes, I know this is a little hard to see, but we have 7.65% is our total FICA. Okay. Of that, we have Social Security, which is 6.2%, and we have Medicare of 1.45%. And when we take these together and we sum them up, we get our FICA tax. Now, this is actually the tax for the employee, and guess what? The employer, your boss, actually matches this amount. So the employer also pays 7.65%. Okay. Which gives a total of 15.3% funding that Social Security Administration. Okay. All right. So how do you benefit or how do you get these Social Security benefits? Well, the first thing is you have to accumulate 40 credits and you receive 4 quarters, 4 credits each year. Yeah, let's turn this to credits. Okay. So therefore, you have to work 10 years to be able to qualify. Okay. All right. Each in 2022, you receive 1 credit for each $1,510 of earnings up to the maximum of 4 credits per year. So if you make $1,510 for the year, you would receive 1 credit. You'd multiply that by 4, and it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of just under $7,000. You would then be eligible for the full credit amount for that year. All right. You also are eligible for survivor benefits. So there's retirement benefits that the Social Security Administration funds, and there are also survivor benefits. So let's say that I'm me and my spouse, I was to pass away, she could theoretically be eligible for survivor benefits. Okay. There are several different aspects. There's the one-time payment of $255. And I know what you're thinking. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get $255. I don't know why that is. But that is the amount that you would get in a lump sum one-time payment. And then the spouse can actually receive benefits up to age, I think it's 60, if they have children under the age of 16. So it's to help to provide for them. And then children are also eligible for various benefits up to age 18. Again, this website right here, this site right here just provides you some information on how you can get access to your specific benefits. So you can go to the SSA website and go to My Accounts, type in your social, date of birth, those types of things, and then ultimately log in if you've been working. Okay, so what are some things that we need to be thinking about when it comes to retirement benefits? Okay, so Social Security is typically funded by how much you have been earning before you're eligible over your last few years. It's also important to make sure we understand that there are certain ages that you will become eligible for retirement benefits. In most cases, 62 years old is the earliest that you can take. 67 is typically referred to as a full retirement age. Now, this is also dependent upon when you were born. And then age, I think it's 70, is when the benefits stop increasing. So even though you may not be taking Social Security at age 70, your benefits will no longer increase. So if you start taking here, actually, this is kind of ground zero right here. This is a reduction. So if you take benefits before age 62, you're going to be reducing your benefit because remember, now you have 5 years here. Okay. And here, moving this way, you're going to increase. And that increase is at 8% per year. So you get another 3 years of increasing your benefits, right? So if your benefit was going to be $4,000 a month, you could actually increase that by 8% per year. Okay. All right. I'm not sure why these slides kind of came over in this way. Estimating your monthly Social Security benefit. So if you were born in 1990, you would have a full 67% retirement age. You could start taking as early as 62, but just keep in mind, there will be a reduction in the full benefit. Okay, in this case, it would be 32%. If you wait until age 70, you'll receive an annual increase of 8%. Okay, just a little bit of a recap. All right, so what are some future concerns? And I'm sorry that these slides are coming over like this. I'm not sure why this is. All right, so there are some concerns, and one of the most significant concerns is that the Social Security trust is actually runs out of money. Because remember, the employees fund money into the Social Security Administration, which then pays the benefits to retired folks. Okay. Now, How much money comes in over here depends on how many employees there are in the economy and how many retired people. So if we get more and more retired people and fewer and fewer employees, you can see that we start to establish some discrepancies in the amount of money that is going in. Okay. We also have this idea that people are living longer. So the longer you live, the more money that's being paid out to the retirement. Okay. So again, we just need to be mindful as financial planners as to thinking about how we're going to help clients navigate this idea of Social Security benefits. Okay, this slide again, you should see it in the slides provided, but you'll see that there is a concern that the Social Security Administration will become bankrupt by 2033. However, there is research that says that 75% of benefits being paid out um, are paid by the current employees. Okay, the current system. So even if even if the Social Security Administration goes bankrupt, there still should be a 75% of the benefits being able to be paid. Okay. Now, obviously, again, some people, I've talked to several people that I've worked with in terms of their financial plans, and they say, I do not want to count for Social Security to be in my plan. And that is completely fine. We can work through a plan to say, look, I'm not going to get this benefit. If I do, great. It's just a bonus, but I'm not going to plan for it. And there are some people that do that to make themselves feel more comfortable. All right. So how do we get this idea of get money into the hands of people for of ultimately retirement? Well, the idea is to have retirement plans. So we want to establish retirement plans. Okay. All right. And a couple of things is that it's designed to help you save for retirement. Most of the time, both employees and employers can contribute. Okay. There normally is a penalty for early withdrawal, and this is to promote the savings aspect. Okay. Why would you want to put money into for a long-term savings plan, right, for retirement, and then constantly be taking it out? So the government has said, look, we're going to penalize people that are trying to take it out, but we're going to also incentivize you. In many cases, you can get tax deferral on the growth in those accounts. So we have tax deferred growth, and we'll see here later that the tax deferral is actually a significant benefit to employees. Okay. And let me do this. I'm going to switch real fast. I just really don't like the way that that's coming up. Hold on one second. Let me find. There we go. This PowerPoint presentation might be a little bit better. There we go. All right, there we go. Let's just go from here. Okay. All right. So employer-sponsored retirement plans, again, they're designed to help you save for retirement. They want to help you with contributions. So many times your employer will actually match what you make. Okay. You have the ability to be receive tax deferred growth. And if you take it out early, there are a few exceptions, but if you take it out early, you can be penalized, right? So there's that idea that we're going to try to stop you from doing that. All right, there are two main types of retirement plans that can be established by an employer, and they don't have to be one or the other. They can actually have both. The first one is a defined benefit plan. And if you think about this definition, defined benefit, the benefit has been defined, okay? So it guarantees you a specific amount of income when you retire, and that's based on the number of years of employment and your ending salary. The employer is the one that bears all the risk. The employer is the one that fully funds it. you don't have to do anything but continue to work for that employer. Okay. So again, there's a lot of things that are nice about a defined benefit plan. If you know you're going to work for a company for 15 or 20 years, you know that at the end of that time period, you're going to have some lifetime benefit. They're going to pay you an income stream for your life. Now, the downside to that is the employer bears all the risk. What happens if the employer goes bankrupt? Well, there can be a deduction of the benefits that you were entitled to based on the employer's health. Okay. The other type of plan is referred to as the defined contribution plan. This is when the employer has defined what they're going to contribute in your behalf. And you, as the employee, bear all the risk. Okay. You have to decide what you're going to invest in. You have to know how much your money you need to put in. You get to select the investment choices, but you are going to only receive the contribution from the employer. That's what is defined. Okay, so you have defined benefit and defined contribution. Now, unfortunately, as you go to work for a company, you really can't say, I really want a defined benefit plan. Okay, you have to go off what the company offers. However, if you're looking at two companies and one offers a defined benefit plan and the other one doesn't, that may be a deciding factor, not the deciding factor, but a consideration in terms of who you might choose to work for. One may provide you that benefit, that defined benefit, and the other may just have the defined contribution. Okay. So in this first box, it says choose your retirement plan. You may not have the choice, but at least you understand the different options. Okay. Now, the contribution strategy. How much can you put aside? Okay. It is ideal for you to do some calculations with the time value of money formulas that we've gone through in this class so that you can get a quick understanding of how much should you have to put aside today, or perhaps maybe when you graduate and you start a full-time job, in order to receive the benefits that you want at retirement. Okay. It is probably a good idea to maybe think about 10 to 15% of your minimum of what you're making. And I will say this, the younger you are, typically the more you can put aside and the more you should put aside, because as you start to age and as you start to get married and have children, if that's what you are desiring, buy a home, buy cars, it is going to be extremely more challenging to put money aside. So I would encourage you, the sooner you can start funding your employment, your retirement plans, the better off you're probably going to be. Okay. Another thing that you can do to just keep going in that regard is to save all of your bonuses and your salary increases, right? So let's say you're starting off at 10% a year, of your salary and you get a 5% raise. Well, instead of taking that raise, why don't you put that into your retirement account? Okay, so that's just another way to continue to make sure that retirement is growing. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about different types of plans. There's about 4 or 5 here that we're just going to just kind of remember, go over pretty high level. The first is a 401k plan, probably one of the most traditional plans that you'll see. A couple of things I just want you to be aware of is that $23,000 is the maximum the employee can contribute. Okay. You can actually add an additional 6,000 or $7,000 on top of that if you're over the age of 50. But for the most part, you are eligible to contribute $23,000 of your pay. The employer can match, and every employer has a different matching scheme. Some will say we're going to contribute just 3%. Some will say we'll do 100% of what you put in up to your first 5%. There's a lot of different ways that they can do that. There are early withdrawal penalties that are on these 401k plans. Now, there are a few exceptions, but remember, it's encouraging long-term savings. That's what it's intended to do. Okay. Another very similar plan is a 403b plan, and this is a B. These act very similar. Most of the time, this is for nonprofits. Okay. So nonprofits typically will start 403b plans, and that's a B. And for-profit will have 401k plans. Okay. Tax deferral. I mentioned this earlier, so it is huge when it comes to being able to not have to pay taxes on gains. Okay, so when money is in a tax deferred account, the money is not being taxed. So all of the growth that's occurring is not going to be taxed. So we have this example right here where the top part of the screen, you are going to be taxed at 25% before you contribute any money, and you're going to be taxed on the earnings each year. So if you were to do that, $4,000 contributions each year, only 3,000 though are going to go in after tax because you got to pay tax, 25% tax. Earnings are going to be 8% before tax and 6% after tax. Your value would only be a little under $500,000 after 40 years. Compare that to going into a retirement plan in which you don't pay tax on the $4,000, you earn the full 8%, you would have $1 million. And as you can see, even if taxes were at 50% when you retire, you're still better off. So tax deferral can be a huge benefit. Okay. All right. I talked a little bit about the 403B plan as it relates to the 401k. They're very similar. Again, most nonprofit organizations set these up. So we're going to just kind of skip through that. Another type of retirement plan is called a simplified employee pension plan. And this is referred to often as a SEP. Okay. This is basically kind of like an IRA and is typically designed for small employers. Okay. Small businesses to contribute to their employees' retirement savings plans. The employer can contribute up to 25% of an employee's salary with a maximum contribution of $69,000. Okay, so very huge. And again, the withdrawal rules are all very similar. It's encouraging long-term savings, and therefore you would be restricted to take money out with you could take it out, but you'll have a penalty and taxes before the age of 59. You'll still have taxes if you take it out after age 59, but there is just no penalty. Another type of plan is a simple plan. This is intended for 100 or fewer employees. The challenge with simples is that it just doesn't match the same contribution limits. Simple, $16,000 per year. Okay. So it doesn't provide the same contribution limits that some of these other plans have. Okay, profit sharing. This is a type of add-on. So if you kind of think about this, this is an add-on to different types of plans, most commonly with the 401k plans. And this is where an employer, obviously if it's a profit producing entity, it can share some of those profits with its employees through adding money into their employment or their retirement accounts. Okay. Now, keep in mind the maximum that the maximum contribution between employer and employee is $69,000 per year. So if the employee, let's say, contributes around $12,000, and let's just say that the employer matches that at 100%, we now have $12,000. So we have $24,000 that has been contributed with an employee and employer match. Now, as you can see, this is far less than the $69,000 per year. So let's say at the end of the year, the employer, contributes. They could contribute another $45,000 in contributions of profit sharing. Okay, so that is a great opportunity. All right. Another option would be employee stock ownership plans. Okay, and this is just another type of plan in which employees can buy into or the employer can put stock of the company into a plan for the benefit of the employee. Now, again, as you can see, it is a little bit more risky because it is not diversifying. It is the employee, the stock, right? It is the stock of the employer being provided to the employee. So as that stock begins to increase in weight of the total assets of the employee, it can become dangerous. If the company goes bankrupt, then all of that value could be lost. Okay, another type of plan, again, self-employed retirement plan. So Keogh is a self-employed for the self-employed. You can contribute up to 25% of your salary with a max of $69,000. Okay. And again, you can control how the funds are invested. That's one of the benefits of a Keogh plan. We would also find that in other types of plans designed specifically for small business owners or self-employed. Okay, this chart just kind of gives you a brief type of structure for different types of retirement plans. So we have for profits. Let's just say that this would be Google. Okay, they could do a 401k. They could do a profit sharing. They could do an employee stock plan. Let's say here we have the Red Cross. Okay, the Red Cross is a nonprofit. They might set up a 403b plan. Small business, again, this could be anyone that you know that just has maybe a fabrication shop, or maybe they have a small store and they are a chiropractor. They might have this SEP, or they might have a simple. And then of course, self-employed could do a SEP or a Keogh. Okay, so those are some of the plans that can be established from the standpoint of a company. You, however, as an individual, could also establish an individual retirement account. For 2024, right now, you can contribute up to $7,000. And if you're age 50 or over, you can do another $1,000 called catch-up contributions. The traditional IRA, it's very important that you keep in mind that this is referring to a traditional IRA. The money that is tax deferred, all the contributions are going to be tax deductible, and the benefits are tax deferred. So contributions equals tax deductible, and the interest and any type of gains is tax deferred. Okay, so tax deductible means I am going to remove that amount on my income or my wages at the end of the tax year. I'm going to say I contributed $7,000, so it's as if I didn't make that at all. So I'm just going to remove that $7,000 from my income, so I don't pay tax on it, which is nice. Okay, and then as I put that $7,000 into this account, and let's say I bought Nvidia at $100 and I sold it at $1,000, that huge gain, I don't have to pay tax on it either. So if I sell Nvidia, that $900 gain, instead of paying tax on it, I can get to reinvest it at without paying tax. I will not pay tax until I take the money out in a traditional IRA. Okay. Again, taxes and penalties can occur when withdrawals are before the age of 59 and a half. Now, let's say that you have an employer and you decided to move to a different position or a different job. You can actually roll money from that retirement plan into an IRA. So it allows you to move retirement money from a corporate account, right, a 401k, into a new IRA. And it's important to know that it's called a rollover IRA, because you could actually then roll it over from that IRA back into a new employer plan if the plan allows for that. So just keep that in mind. Now, I mentioned several times, and I wanted to reemphasize that the last IRA that we spoke about was the traditional IRA. This IRA is called a Roth IRA. The Roth IRA is funded with after tax money. Okay, so unlike a traditional IRA, so if I make $10,000 this year and I put $7,000 into an IRA, I'm only going to be taxed on $3,000. In a Roth, I make $10,000, I pay tax on $10,000, and then I put $7,000 into the Roth. And what that means is that the tax has been paid at the front end, and it's not going to be paid on the back end, which means when I take the money out, I am no longer going to be taxed on that amount. Okay, so you'll never pay tax on that money again. And that's the main idea here is, when do you expect taxes to be higher? On the front end, as they are today, or 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now? If you think taxes are going to be higher in the future, then a Roth IRA is probably going to be in your best interest. So again, here's a quick comparison. Contributions are tax deductible now. For a Roth IRA, earnings will never be taxed. Okay, so once the money goes in, it has already been taxed. All right. So the advantage of traditional IRAs over Roth IRAs is that contributions are deductible now. The advantage over Roth is that the earnings are not going to be taxed. So the idea really is, here's the question you need to ask. When will tax rates be lower? Today or in the future? If you think it's the future, Roth. If you think it's today, traditional. Traditional. If you think that tax rates are lower in the future, lower. This is the traditional. If you think that tax rates are going to be lower in the future, you want the deduction now. So when money is taken out and when it's taxed, you want it to be lower. If you think taxes are going to be lower today than in the future, you want Roth. You want to pay tax today, and then you want the money to come out later. So forgive me for this. I was thinking through this backwards. Okay. Okay. So today, if you want tax, and we're talking about lower taxes, you could flip it around and say, when are taxes going to be higher in the future? All right. Well, if they're higher in the future, do a Roth. If they're higher today, do a traditional. All right. Account tax diversification. It is very important to make sure that you understand how there are different types of investments, and the investments themselves may have tax implications, and the accounts that they're in might have tax implications. So we want to make sure that we identify those different types of accounts. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Muni bonds, they're a type of fixed income. They are generally tax-free income. Okay. If you have a muni bond, they are generally going to be, we'll say federal tax-free. Okay. Federally tax-free. All right. Now, we would not want to put these bonds in a tax advantaged account, because the purpose of the tax advantage accounts is to get the growth. We wouldn't want these to be in a non-qualified account. Okay, because the money is already tax free. If we put these into, let's say, an IRA, okay, which we don't want to do, if we do that, then the money goes in. It's going to be taxed at the withdrawal. Would create a tax burden. So the whole point of this slide is that when we're thinking about retirement, and this is why sometimes it's very helpful to talk to a financial professional, you want to make sure that the types of accounts that you have access to and the types of investment products that you have access to are in the right that the right products are in the right types of accounts. So we'll say it that way. Okay. There's also this idea of an annuity. So an annuity is a product that provides a stream of income for one's life. Okay. Many of these annuities are established by insurance companies, and they can become expensive. Okay. But the idea is that it's going to provide a stream of income for the investor's lifetime. Okay. And if that fear of running out of money is a concern for the investor, then an annuity can be a good product for them, because it'll provide that benefit throughout their lifetime, regardless of what their assets do. Okay. And there are several different types of annuities. There are an immediate annuities, which I'm going to put, let's say, money into the annuity now, and then I know that for the rest of my life, I'm going to receive a payout. I could also have, there is also a deferred annuity. I will put money into the annuity, but I'm going to defer payments until later. Okay. Oops. An immediate annuity is I'm going to receive payments right now. Okay. So again, just another different tool. And again, these have its own set of complexities. All right, retirement savings priority. Remember, we want to start early. If you can put in 10, 20, if you can even put up 50% of your income from day one and do that for, let's say, the first 2 years. If you can live pretty simply for the first 2 years, you could set yourself to never have to pay in any money again, ever. You would be set because you're allowing more and more time to maximize that growth. Okay. The other thing is we want to make sure that we're getting that company match. Many people call this free money. Okay, so if your employer says on day one you can contribute to your 401k and we're going to match, let's say, the first 5%, put in 5%, let them put in 5% for you. Okay, we want to also maximize as many types of accounts as we can, specifically, if we can, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs. And you can even add a health savings account if you have a high deductible health plan. This can be used in retirement for healthcare costs. Okay. But we want to maximize these accounts, and that will help set us up for success when it comes to retirement. Okay, again, just a couple of things that we need to be aware of, right? So we want to know how much have we saved now? How many years do we have to save? What are our expected annual returns? And this is all where financial planners can help. Okay. And if you're ever interested in becoming a financial planner, this is what you can actually help clients do. This is the main aspect of what financial planners do. Is the the largest expense that most all people have is retirement, and they need to figure out how to fund it and then how to prepare for it. Okay, so that's what a lot of financial planners can do. All right, everybody. Well, listen, that wraps up retirement. Again, very high level. I just wanted to make sure you had a kind of an overview of a lot of these different types of plans and just thoughts around what it looks like to start thinking about retirement. We're getting ready to jump into the next module on estate planning. Again, the furthest from most of your minds is how do I start preparing for my legacy, my death, what my assets are going to be? I don't even have any assets. What am I trying to do to think about preparing for them? But it's good to have an idea of what that process looks like. You may be ultimately responsible or asked to be an administrator or an executor of your parents or your grandparents' estate. And this would be a great lesson just to be able to have some familiarity with what is going on. We just have a couple more lessons. So hang with me, and I'll see you in the next one.